आजकल किसी को भी माइक दे तो पॉडकास्टर बन जाते हैं.
She was like, how did you land Ori, Imran Khan, Kalki?
Everyone is insecure. Everyone wants the next big number.
Tell me something that you have heard from a guest which has not come on camera.
My most controversial piece of content. I'm not going to come here and say it's like easy and like lovely and not. Wow, wow, that was like really taking some time to take the information in.
Taking it in.
The day that Ori had come.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Found Hers podcast. Our guest for today, she doesn't just spill the tea, she dissects it. Founder, host, and somebody who's known for calling out brands and campaigns. Handing the mic over to Aleena Gandhi. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I'm very excited to be here.
How does it feel to be on that side?
I'm glad that I've done a lot of this before in my career, so it doesn't feel as different. I'm used to doing like panel talks and everything, but yeah, I do more of the asking the questions. I love it when somebody asks me a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think today we're going to dissect everything around Aleena, dissects what has it all been like, your journey. And of course, starting off with the most, I think this is something that my whole team was super excited, is two women hosts coming together and speaking. I think cheers to us.
When I
it's a
met
big
you,
achievement.
when I met you also, I was like so pumped that, when I find women who are working in this space, because a lot of women come to me and be like, how do you start? Or like, how are you confident enough to be on the camera? And we're facing these like problems wherein we don't want to be on the screen and things like that. And then we really have to motivate them that, your life can change to be able to make content, no matter what industry you are in.
My first question to you is like, how did you land, getting like Ori, Imran Khan, Kalki? Like, you've got a wide range variety. You've done business, lifestyle, sports, all of it. So how did you go about doing that?
Okay, so I'm going to be very honest and tell you the truth is that when I was entering this industry, because I studied marketing and I knew it from doing social media dissect, I said, if I have to launch a podcast, which I really want to do, there is something I have to do that is different from the rest.
Yeah.
But what is it that will make me stand out? And I said, it's only the type of connections that I have made and the networking that I have done through the years is going to really now help me. So let me find people that are not so heard about or have not been everywhere, and then let me ask the questions that people want to but they don't get a chance to.
Yeah.
So everybody that I find is unique and has a voice and has some depth to what they do, I said that's my differentiator of being a podcaster. So it was strategic.
Oh, that's really nice. And I think you also ask very, like those questions that really unfold different parts of themselves. Like when I saw the Imran Khan episode, I thought it would be really focused on Bollywood and how he kind of didn't make it. But it was so much more of him as a person. It kind of brought back my childhood love, Jaane to ya jaane na. I used to look at him and he was like the chocolate boy at that point of time. How did you prepare yourself as a host to be sitting in front of these personalities, to even ask them the questions?
I have to tell you an incident. So when Jonty Rhodes was coming, first of all, I'm not like the biggest fan of cricket. I don't know everything about cricket. And so I was like, okay, Jonty Rhodes is coming. And then everybody's like, oh my God, Jonty Rhodes is coming. Then I started getting nervous, okay? So I called up my business coach and I texted her and I said, listen, I'm very nervous. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I'm so new, I'm so raw and everything. And then she came back and she said, think about why you're scared. So I said, what do you mean scared? So scared? No, like, what do you mean? She's like, no, find out why. So I thought about it for a whole day, that why I was getting scared. And then she said, and then I told her, I said that, I'm scared because there's an audience coming. I'm scared because I don't know everything about cricket as well.
Yeah.
So she asked me back and she said, Aleena, does Jonty Rhodes know about marketing, advertising, podcasting, setup, and like your reels and everything? So I said, obviously not. He's a cricketer. And she's like, that's exactly why he's coming to you. He's not coming to you because you know about cricket. He's coming to you because you know about interviewing and about podcasting. Suddenly, my fear went away. Because that's now how I started dealing with my problems. You understand what is it you're feeling, unravel it, and find a solution to it by neutralizing it. and then you don't get so scared.
Yeah.
Like it must be Anu Malik is sitting, or Kalki is sitting, or like I had Rishabh Mariwala, who's such a big investor founder, and sitting across them, I'm like, I'm holding my power and my strength, and they have theirs, and I respect them for theirs, but they are also coming here because they respect me for what I am doing. And that's how then you don't
Yeah.
you feel like you're okay to ask them those
Yeah.
questions or invade into their life at some point. So I'm doing that only.
Asking them those tricky questions. But yeah, I think what you say is like it's a conversation.
Yeah.
So you're kind of your equal. I used to feel the same thing. I used to feel like I needed to know it all before
That's the
I asked
thing.
them.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine is like, "You're doing this to know
To
it
know
all."
it, right.
I was like, "Oh yeah, okay. Then let me try it the other way with like a curious mindset." And I think
Yeah.
the curious mindset also kind of helps. Tell me something that you have heard from a guest which has not come on camera.
Very interesting. Ori had come,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the day that Ori had come, everybody thought he's going to be very friendly as soon as he enters. But people are not like that. It takes some time, even though he's Ori, right? So he came in, and he's with his managers, and again, all the girls I know had come to see him. So there was a full entourage in my office that day. It's like Ori, 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 and then he just came and he sat and all, and he was not, "Hi, you guys, how are you?" Pehle nahi bola. So he was, my team was, and my friends and all were a little like, "Arey, why he's not
Yeah.
talking this and that?" I was like, "Just give me 5 minutes." He sat down, and he was still in a zone, like
Yeah.
maybe in a different zone that he had come from. And now I know Ori, we've seen so much of his content, and I know him for a few years. So I said, Ori, this is before the cameras were rolling. So I said, how, Ori, you said it's like your dream to get tapped. Yeah, and you got that. It's my dream, okay, like one day, only for one day, I want 2 bodyguards next to me the whole day. Okay, he to immediately full change, he's smiling, he's kept his phone away, he's looking at me, and then he's like, "Hey, Alina, the day that you have 3-4 events, na, that day you call the bodyguards because then it will be useful for you to get the bodyguards to that." And then the whole podcast was amazing.
Amazing.
Otherwise, sometimes they come very uptight.
Yeah.
And you need to know, acha, what will I say to Ori that he will get comfortable with me? And
Yeah.
and it just went flowing, and it went so interesting. I was laughing the whole podcast because he was only joking.
Yeah.
He didn't come like that.
Yeah, you're right. Many people do come reserved, but like genuinely kudos to you. Like you're like really picking. I love how you're picking on people's personality. Like you're so focused on that in order to kind of get to, like you said, psychology plays a role, customer behavior, like consumer behavior plays a role in everything that you do. Wow, that's wow. That was like really
He's taking some
interesting.
time to take
Yeah,
the
like I'm just
information
like
in.
taking it in because that's a very, very good way to break the ice, especially when you're sitting in front of someone. Like I would be
And also
sweating, like being like, oh my god, like don't look at my back, I'm
I
sweating.
know. No, but it's also everybody only sees what happens on the camera. It's also the first time that I'm sharing these incidences and talking about it. So maybe it'll help people who are in such positions.
Question for you as a podcaster: do you watch your own episodes after they go live?
No.
Yeah.
No. I think it's only one time where my friend has a mini theater in his house, and he's like, "We have to watch your episode with you." So I said, "No, you guys watch." Now there were 20 of him in his home theater. And then they were like, "No, you have to come." So I went and I watched my Ori episode, and I was like, "Alina, what are you doing? You're only laughing." Because when you look at it yourself, you are like, "Acha, I should have done this better. Acha, I shouldn't make so many faces." That is my biggest problem. Like I'm constantly making faces when I can't control my facial expressions. I'm learning how to do that. But
Don't. Guns like you, that's fun to watch. It's so fun to watch.
No, but it's not always like I'm laughing. Sometimes I'm going like this.
Yeah, sometimes you're like noticing, you're trying to understand. And
I'm like, "Alina, what are these faces you're making?" But I can't. It comes naturally to me.
I know my editor team, and because Mehak, my sister, is my editor, she hates me by the end of it. Because if I sit on an edit, I'll be like, oh shit, I should have not said this.
Yes.
Oh shit, I could have done this small run. And then she has obviously her set of feedback, which I'm like,
which is why I do.
yeah, it's better. It's like, let the audience watch, praise me. I have no.
No, I get a lot of negative also. I get a lot.
That was my next question to you. Like, so how are you dealing with backlash, be it on social media dissects or your podcast? Both.
I'll tell you the hack that I learned. There are people from the industry that have done this before you. Okay. I look up to what have they done to deal with this. So I will hear a Prajakta Kohli. I will hear a Tanmay Bhatt. I will hear a Ranveer Alabadia. I will hear these people talk about their experiences with hate and their experiences with criticism. All of them, because they've done this for so long, have these hacks or they have like mental models of how to deal with this. I literally take notes. And I realized that a lot of them have said that, at some point you get used to it, it stops affecting you, but it will affect you in the beginning. Now, what happens is when you're aware, no, you can deal with it better.
Yeah.
So if I know it's coming my way and I know, okay, there is going to be hate in whatever that I do. For example, the tips that they've said is look at the positive instead of focusing on the negative, because the human mind is such that you are going to look at the negative, you're going to zoom in on that and then forget all the positive. So what you're going to do is look at all the positive and read the negative and let it go. That is one thing. Another thing is that sometimes it's criticism constructively, but because we have so much egos in ourselves, we look at, "Arey, isko to kuch nahi pata, what
They don't know
rubbish is
the full story type.
Exactly. So there I take it. Like I take that criticism of it like being better and change it around. And if somebody is just hating for no reason and all, I turned it into comedies. Like I make fun of myself before anybody else can. So I give you incidences. I was doing a podcast with Rishabh Mariwala. As the most humble person ever. And my stylist has decided my outfit because I had no time to do that when I was flying to Dubai. Okay. And when I removed the outfit, it was me and my team member in Dubai. It was a bubble gum dress. Bubble gum, okay. I was like, how am I going to wear this out Dubai? I mean, no other option, no time also. I wore it and all with full confidence. And I reached over there. He's wearing a toned down outfit. He's not even wearing chappal. We had to tell him, can you please like wear, because it was this housing, can you please like, my production team said, like, can you wear like some footwear? It will look nice and everything. Next day on the podcast, I have written it myself. Like, who dresses up like a bubble gum in front of such a big billionaire and sits across them? And then I did a poll and everybody joined the laugh itself.
Tell me something about an incident where you've got constructive feedback and what change did
Yes,
you make?
please. In the Manav Manglani episode, what happened was that I was having a really bad day in my personal life. And so I was feeling very low and I realized later that I was compensating by being too loud. मुझे लगा मैं जोर से बात करूंगी enthusiasm ना,
So they
तो
will
मेरा
not
जो
see,
किसी को पता नहीं चलेगा how upset I was that day and what I had been through and everything. And so I started talking loudly. Now the problem was that Manav ji is very soft. Every single comment on that YouTube is in that YouTube video is, why is she screaming? Why is this host so loud? Does not she know how to do like a volume check? Everything was hate on my volume, but they were not wrong.
Yeah.
I was ate too much, and then maybe in the edit, because I didn't watch it, I didn't realize I could have told the editor to stabilize the voices. So it is a problem. It is something that I did wrong. I could have done correctly. In otherwise also while shooting I was overcompensating by being loud, and in the edit also I missed it. So that was something I took upon myself and I said, audio, it's a podcast, the audio has to be correct. And a friend of mine also told me, she's like, Alina, look, I'm watching your episode in the house and I can't hear him. I have to make it loud, but my baby's sleeping inside. I said, oh my God, I really need to be careful about it.
Yeah. I mean, because it happened because of a personal day, and I just want to ask you, because even I faced it, is firstly, so you can't lie in front of the camera. When I had come on a very bad day, I sat in front of the camera, I shot. What happened is our first guest cancelled. So my energy dropped even more. I was dead.
Yeah,
The episode was dead. The episode didn't pick up the way it was. What happened is when we sat to make the reel edits to amplify the episode, every time we'd make it, I didn't like it, my team didn't like it. So they were just like, it's not, and that's when I realized that like how much of that kind of impacts, and you just have to find a balance. But it's great that you take this feedback in, because I think people also appreciate that, right? They feel that that's how your community kind of gets built as well.
Right.
That why they should kind of follow you, because you did follow that through with the next. Another question for you, has there ever been an incident where you're shooting an episode, you've got a flow, you've got a theme, but the guest is just not going with it? And how did you
This
deal
is
with
my
that?
most controversial piece of content. That podcast did not go up. So this is something that people don't know, is that not every single podcast that we shoot goes up. Guest was being very, very difficult. Guest was asking me questions from the questions that I was asking them. So they were not giving anything.
Yeah, they were answering.
Plus, it was not valuable for my audiences.
Yeah.
And that day I decided that, I'm not just going to put up anything just because I have to on every Wednesday. I did not. I told the team that, this person A will get trolled for what they have done, because we don't want hate on that other person also, right? Maybe they don't realize that that will happen to them. And secondly, there was no value and information given. So I can't put this up on my platform and associate with it, because my listeners have a lot of like expectation from me, considering the kind of
Yeah.
guest list
Yeah.
that I have. And they're coming honestly now for the guests more than me. Eventually, hopefully, they'll come for me than the guests. But I know that they're coming for the guests right now. So can't do that to them.
Yeah. I think, yeah, means it's tough to make that choice. I don't know how you did it. I would have just
Very
been like, nay, 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 nay.
With the PR team, it was very difficult because they were obviously pushing it out and hearing you shot it. Why can't you put it? But you have to put your foot down and in these cases be like blunt and be like, I can't do this. This is not good.
You mentioned about social media, Risex. You started this back like in 2018.
Yes.
So tell me your journey. Like, how did you decide to start social media, Risex?
So I was doing a job wherein I was basically handling other clients, mostly hospitality, like the St. Regis, the Westin, Renaissance, all these hotel clients I was doing. And after 2 years, everybody gave me two options. You're like, either you start your own agency or, get a job at another company. Okay. And I was like, I don't want to do either of them. A lot of what I did in my job was research. It was basically like dissecting what other brands are doing, what companies are doing, and then I would present it to my bosses. I would present it to the team saying that, that hotel, which we don't know, that one is doing this work, that brand is doing this and all of that, and I would put it in one place. Then I realized that if I need this, probably other people also need to see what all brands are doing in one place, what campaigns are going on and all. So I started an Instagram page. So my business actually started as an Instagram page. And nothing happened for like, I think, a year of me posting 3 times every single day. So I would pick up brands.
And you still went.
1 year. No, but after 1 year, I was like, I went back home and I was like, Mom, I need to give up. This is not working. There's nobody's listening, nobody's watching and everything. And you won't believe it. Next year, we went from 4,000 to 80,000 followers with a lot of brand deals and campaigns. So I always say, and I said this in my TED talk also, that if I actually gave up on that day of after 1 year, I wouldn't have reached here only. So everybody that is watching also, I feel like it's that moment where you feel like it's not working out. You push yourself a little bit harder is when things will start working out.
Yeah. I mean, I like that you took your personality of just being like loud and just calling out things and making that into a business. Like you said, you love psychology, you study consumer behavior. You ran a business which is just putting information out to people. You're not coming face front with social media, Risex, of course. You're not coming face front. You're making a creative and you're telling me something someone has done.
Yes.
But you still gather engagement.
Yes.
If I were to ask you to tell me 2 unique consumer behaviors or consumer trends you've noticed on your page that you can share with us.
When I started the page, I said there are lots of people that are talking about marketing, whether it's in a book, whether it's in websites and all of that I used to read at that time. But everything was going over my head. So I said, why is this going over my head? Is because बहुत complicated tha. Like the words that they would use in marketing was so complicated. I said, let me put this brand's campaign up. Let me dissect it in a way that I will understand. Okay. And I'm being very honest. I understand things that are very like massy. Okay. So I put up the caption explaining what was already happening in the post. Now I know that my audience is not a CEO at that point. Okay. So people started really understanding what is happening in that picture and started commenting, oh, this was what it meant. This ad. For example, I'll give you the ad also. It's a candy brand. I don't remember the name of the brand. And there is a lollipop and ants are going from the side to show sugar free. Okay? The lollipop usually we'll assume that the ants will go on it. You probably remember the picture. We'll insert it in the video. And so sugar free dikhane ke liye, they saw that it was. Now, when you look at the picture, you will understand. Okay. I wrote the same thing that I am telling you as the caption. And I realized that that is what connected me with the regular person, because I was not dealing with marketing CEOs. I was dealing with the common person, the person that's coming into like this world of advertising, students that want to learn about this, and maybe like, social media managers, executives, graphic designers. They don't understand fancy things and they want it to be toned down. That's something that I'm telling you, I had a team member that joined me later and they were like, Alina, it's simple. Like, why will you write this caption? Write something that's more dissecting it in a better way. I was like, no, my audience likes to understand the way that I understand, which is very simple and still explaining what the campaign is in that. And that's when I realized on social media, especially, they want to consume content that is easy to consume.
Yeah.
We don't want it to be jargons. We don't want it to be fancy. Then only we'll understand what is happening. And that was early on when the content creation and all had not even happened. So at that time, I understood that this easy hack is something that I need to do.
Dumb it down. Like really dumb it down.
Really dumb it down, because that's what my audience will like. And then you won't believe it. I had too many of those audience. And how do I get to the CEOs? I'm not joking. I went to my insights and I was like, hey, Abhi, now I have these interns, I have graphic designers, I have social media executives. How do I get the CEOs, the founders of companies to follow me? Okay. Because those were not there. And then I started shifting my content. Nobody put so much effort. I started shifting my content to say that let's put more of campaigns that are higher frequency, content pieces that are more bigger campaigns. For example, not just a social media post, not just a campaign somebody did on Diwali or on Eid or something. Let me do like lifetime campaigns. Let me talk about, for example, if I can tell you the De Beers campaign, diamond campaign, where they said diamond is forever, is like a marketing campaign of like the century, right? It gave diamond the value. It said that, Acha, I've done this campaign and that is why diamond got its value. Otherwise, it's a piece of like stone, right? So then I said, let me dissect those campaigns, which my CEOs will understand, which my, people who are 10 years into the industry, they will know about those campaigns. And that's when I started getting that. So I realized that my age group went from 16 to 24. At that time, I said, I need to increase this. Why are older people not following me? And now it's like you have, of course, your 16 to 24, but I also have like 25 to 35 and then spilling over to 40 as an audience. I did it consciously.
So you've used data as a strategy. What was like, how did you come about making this shift in a content strategy? Of course, identifying that you want to target them is one part of it. Everybody today knows that I want to reach that person. But how to reach that person is the language.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that?
I went and used data. So I went on the insights, but not just on Instagram. There are websites and apps that give you, at that time, to give you a lot more data points than Instagram can give you, right? I was, like I'm saying, like a researcher and like a deep dive into things. I would go into these websites. I would find out what retention is, how long are people watching this video, why are they or talking about a certain topic, take those data points and then use it into my content to be able to get to more people. For example, something that I don't think people generally do, but I do, is a lot of social listening.
Yeah.
And social listening is basically what is somebody speaking about you, or what has your brand been spoken about online. You find it all together in one place. So, for example, if there's a PR article about me, how will I know somebody's written it unless my friend sends it to me? I do social listening. So, where has anybody spoken about Alina Dissect will all be in one place if you use tools that help you to do social listening. So, I do these like data things to be able to get ahead, because like I said, unless you do things differently, you deep dive and you're really passionate about what you want to do, is when you realize how can you fill these gaps to be able to grow.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, you like just explaining it took you this much time. It just shows how much that one post, that one 4-grid thing that you see on the page, what is the whole backstory behind it and how much goes behind it.
But people will come and be like, you're just posting what other people are doing. So what is the value you're providing? So initially I used to get that a lot.
I'm
Like,
sure because
you're not doing anything, you're just putting a screenshot of what a brand has done on your page. People didn't see the value at that time.
you still stuck through. So
Yeah,
think
I was
that
like, I know what I'm doing.
yeah, so I think it's just having that resilience also. I think one thing that I love talking about is failures because I feel that makes us who you are. Failure is not only about the mistake you made, it's about the learning that you had. You've had so many experiences in your space. Like you said, you were almost going to give up at one point. You retrieved back. Can you talk about a founder failure that you are proud about now because you grew out of it, but something that happened in your journey of building a business that any woman or any founder who's watching this can take back?
Let me tell you what I learned first is that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you need to pivot. Okay. I think it's the hardest thing to do because it puts you through a whole journey in itself to just be able to pivot. But it's very important because it helps you sustain yourself and the business. What happened is I ran a digital marketing agency wherein I was doing services for clients and I did it really well. But at some point, I got burnt out. And at that time, I had about 35, 40 people in my team and a lot of clients, right? So I was like not able to handle the publishing house and the agency together. And what that meant was, delivering the best kind of quality to my clients or being able to have employees that were satisfied with what they were doing because I don't like employees overworking themselves. Um, I went back to the drawing board. Like, what am I doing wrong? How can I set this up better? I did a lot of permutation combinations to make it work. I said, okay, maybe I hire this person, or maybe I set up the team in a different way, or maybe I reduce some clients, something like that, and none of it was working. Like, I kept trying, I kept trying. At that point, I really rely on other people to help me. In this situation, I went to my mentors and I said, I'm feeling burnt out and frustrated, and like, I feel like I'm not able to give my best to either the publishing house or, the agency. So what should I do? And they go back, these mentors go back to like your childhood and what do you want to achieve in your life later on, because that gives them a broader spectrum. And when I started telling them that, this is the thing I enjoy, this is the thing I'm doing for money, this is the thing I'm doing for like other things. And they were able to pinpoint and say a few things to me that changed my entire career. For example, one of them said that, Alina, you're a big fish in a small pond. And I said, what do you mean? And they said that your audience size in general is lesser, because how many people are in advertising and marketing, right? You are a big fish, means you have the ability to speak to a lot more people. But your niche is, you've done it and you've done it really well, and it's given you a lot of practice and a lot of learnings that you've had. You now need to strengthen and broaden your audience base, which is why I didn't do the podcast on just advertising and marketing, which is why it's broad. That's the thing they said to me. And the second thing, another mentor who was not from the industry, was from outside, he said to me that, Alina, you're a front end person and you're stuck in doing back end work. And they said, do you see yourself doing this 5 years down the line? And I said, no. I said, maybe I'll be in this situation if I still keep doing it 5 years later, wherein, clients are calling you at 11 o'clock. Has the logo been changed? Have you hired the right person? And I said, no, I won't be enjoying it. So then they said, you need to, straight on my face, you need to shut your agency. And I was like, now that all my money is coming
That's what I was
from,
just gonna say. The
all
money
of
comes
my
from
money,
there.
most
Yeah.
of my money was coming from the agency, and they're just like, shut it. I was like, how will I sustain? How will I make money then? So they said that wherever you put your concentration on, you will make money. That's not something you need to worry about. And I was so worried about, honestly, the finances and the money and everything. I had the most difficult time letting go of my team, letting go of the clients, letting go of all the work that I had done, thinking that this is going to be like the downfall and public downfall, because everyone in the industry knows me for doing social media for these brands and putting it up and stuff like that. And those 6 months were very difficult. I had to really one by one look at, clients leaving, money becoming less in my bank account. And the thing that hit me the most is that these people, some of them that, had to go to better opportunities. They're still in touch with me and everything, but they had to leave Social Media Dissect. And I think that was the hardest part. Like looking at a resignation letter from the people that you think are going to be with you forever. That was very, very difficult. And I would have never started the podcast if I didn't go through all of that. I would have never got up and said, I need to pivot. I need to find out what is it that I like doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
What is something that can add value to the publication? What can add value to my life? So like, what is it that I want to do next? And when I was completely like, I don't know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do this, is when I said, I want to do this podcast thing since like 2 years. I haven't been doing it, but I don't know if I'll find a space, if I'll find the equipment, if I'll find a
Yeah.
producer, if I'll find a guest and everything. But it was such a low phase that I was like, if I have to get out of this, something I have to be able to do. Something I need some achievement, something new in my
That
life.
first step, basically.
I need that first step. And that first step was also because somebody else invited me to their podcast. And again, very low day that they had. I pushed myself to go that day. I don't show it. It doesn't come on
Yeah.
camera, but hota hai. And then this girl gave my introduction. And she said such nice things about how I bind the industry together and how it has changed people's life because they've got a job because of me, or because they've got a client because of me, or I posted their content on Dissect and they were screaming and laughing the whole day that they got
Yeah.
featured on social media Dissect. Is when I realized, what am I doing? Like, there is so much potential. There is so much, like, why am I giving up? Like, why am I not thinking of myself how other people are looking at me, because they are to seeing
Yeah.
the positive. I am over here thinking about the negative. I then, after that podcast, I got up and I was like, no, I want to do my own podcast. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to find a place or the guests or whatever. But I need to come back from this failure and come back even stronger than I have with Social Media Dissect.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
how your podcast started.
That's how I started the podcast.
But it must have been tough. I mean, I can relate to the agency frustration. It gets too much.
Yeah.
I also don't see myself doing it like, till the day I die types. I'm going to do a quick rapid fire with you. Quick answers, like a mix of things. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay. What is your go-to comfort show?
Friends.
What is your most used emoji in your DMs currently?
Thumbs up. Because it's all work related.
Yeah.
So, okay. It's thumbs
Okay,
up.
okay. Which was your favorite ever viral moment that you had with Social Media Dissects?
When I did the campaign called Copyland, and I had to put two ice cream brands right next to each other that did the same exact thing.
Oh.
They copied each other exact.
And you
was-
call them out for it.
And I said Copyland, this brand has copied this brand.
Rank these podcasts in the order of your liking. Nikhil Kamat's WTF, Raj Shamani's Figuring It Out, Moment of Silence, and Jay Shetty's podcast.
You are being Karan Johar right now on putting
You
me
will
in
get
that
a goodie
spot.
bag at the end, don't worry.
Okay. For the goodie bag. Raj is number one because it's educational, and my type of content that I like to consume is more educational. I don't go to podcasts for like chilling. Then the second one I would say is Nikhil Kamath, for the same reason, that very intellectual, very experienced guests. So I get to learn something. I look at podcasts to learn. Next is going to be Jay Shetty, because you're still getting into the minds of people. I really like Moments of Silence strategy of getting into Gen Zs or people who are relaxing to watch a podcast.
Yeah.
I am not a user of that, because for me, if I had to relax, I would go meet my friends in person and talk about these things only that they are talking. But I'm not their audience, but I really like both of them.
Yeah. Okay. If your journey as a founder was a Bollywood movie, what would the title be?
Jab we met.
Yeah.
The name also, the story also, me as a person also. Sab kuch
You're like
relate
Geet.
kar raha hai. Yes. And
It's your personality. मैं अपनी favorite हूँ.
yes.
3 things that you always have with you in your bag.
I have a lipstick. I have earrings. I have
Earrings?
because I always forget. So things to get ready, I need to put in my handbag because I have so much work. I keep forgetting all of these things. But or like have wallet, car keys. And I also said now I have a Hollyland mic because I've become an official content creator. So in my bag there is a mic. कि कहीं भी जाके किसी को question पूछना पड़े तो quickly I can,
Directly you can start like, do you दे दो इधर?
yeah, always ready on the go.
Good one. Okay. One thing that people assume about you which is completely wrong.
Oh my God, my favorite question you've asked me. I've had this person come to me and spend a day or two with me and said that, wow, your life is so fun. You have to get up, yap, full day yap, and then go to sleep. Next day again, get up, yap, and then go to sleep. And I am like, I wish you knew like 1% of my life. Everybody that looks at least my life from however few people are watching, they think that everything is perfect and I've had a great life and a great upbringing and everything. But if you really get deep dive into that aspect, which we can maybe talk about later, is that I've seen way more ups and downs in life than anybody that I know. And I know everybody's struggle is very different from each other, and everybody has struggle depending on who they are and what they've been through. But I've been through some life lessons that are really big to be able to be sitting here and saying all of these things.
Yeah. No, I think this actually is the perfect question to ask you, because you very well summarized everything. This whole podcast just taught me about how you owned your personality and you just went for it, and you didn't have it easy.
Yeah.
I also saw the side of you on camera. I didn't hear the side of you back there. And right now I can tell you that you really owned up to the person you are and created this entire space. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing everything on this episode.
No, thank you for calling me, because like I said, so many of these things nobody knows, nobody talks about. And if I have to like really say this to other women, it's like even if one person gets affected by it and in a positive way takes back that, you know, it's not easy, it's a journey. There's going to be people that are going to help you. You can reach out to. That's what I would like to tell other people.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you grew till here. And you're still young. You still made it so big till then. So I think a big kudos to you for
Thank
that.
you.
And thank you for doing this.
Thank you. It made me feel very comfortable in saying whatever I've had to, and you've been like easy to speak to also. So I'm glad.
I'm glad.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. I hope you really like this episode. Finally getting behind the one who's dissecting all these brands and now a lot of people on her podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode. If you like this one, then please like, share, subscribe.